The Trump administration is making it increasingly harder for people to get out of immigration detention centers, even if they have no serious criminal record. Immigration lawyers have fought back with habeas corpus petitions, but lawyers are now saying that the administration is using a new tactic, setting ridiculously high bond amounts or denying bond altogether on questionable grounds. I'm Gustavo Solis, and this is The Border Brief. I first told you about habeas petitions back in November of last year. A writ of habeas corpus is a centuries-old legal remedy meant to protect people from being illegally imprisoned by the federal government. And these used to be extremely rare in the immigration system. That's because immigration courts are totally separate from federal courts, and immigrants generally have access to bond, parole, and release hearings within the immigration court system. So it didn't really make sense for someone to file a writ of habeas corpus in federal courts to get out of immigration. But the Trump administration has removed access to those hearings within the immigration court system, which means that immigrants are now being detained indefinitely for months without having even a formal bond hearing to see if they can get released. And that's when lawyers started filing habeas petitions in federal courts all over the country. Now, when I first wrote about this last November, lawyers had filed a little more than 3,000 petitions. Now, they have filed more than 50,000. And this was working. By and large, federal judges granted habeas petitions, ordering immigration judges to hold the bond hearings or outright release the detainees. Megan Day is an attorney with the Immigrant Defenders Law Center.
The vast majority of our habeas petitions have been successful. I think in our office we've had about above 90% success rate. The federal judges are seeing pretty much across the board that the government is violating the law, and even the government attorneys are conceding to a lot of our arguments.
But something's changed over the last few months. Federal courts are still ordering immigration judges to hold bond hearings, but defense lawyers are now saying that those bond hearings are questionable. For example, people with no criminal records are getting unusually high bonds of $50,000. That's what happened to one of Stacy Tolchin's clients. She's a lawyer based in Pasadena.
And in immigration, you have to pay the full bond. You don't pay 10%. You pay the full bond. People don't have $50,000 to pay for somebody that's lived in the U.S. for over 25 years with a family who's eligible for relief.
Stacy has practiced immigration law since 2001. She has seen high bond amounts before, but only in the most extreme circumstances.
I had a $50,000 bond when there was an Interpol red warrant for a foreign arrest for murder. That was a $50,000 bond case. So that tells you where we are now.
Another lawyer, Cassandra Lopez from the immigrant advocacy group Al Otro Lado, told me one of her hearings lasted less than 10 minutes. It came down to whether her client was a flight risk. Now, usually in immigration court, the burden of proof is on government lawyers representing ICE. Not in this case.
The immigration judge didn't hold the government to any burden, didn't ask the government really any questions, and really put the burden on the immigrant, the individual, and then denied bond based on risk of flight. And the hearing lasted, it was like a 9-minute hearing, I think, 8 or 9 minutes.
Cassandra says this is an example of a shifting culture within the immigration court system.
We've seen the Trump administration fire immigration judges and then hire deportation judges. You know, that's the language, like we're hiring judges that are just going to rubber stamp our deportation apparatus.
The Department of Justice agency that oversees immigration courts said the Trump administration is complying with court orders and fully enforcing immigration law. They called the allegations from immigration lawyers baseless attacks. But Stacy Tolchin told me that if this continues, it will undermine the credibility of our entire immigration court system.
We're just really concerned that this really is a sham court at this point, and it's become an agent of the Trump administration.
Thanks for watching another episode of The Border Brief. Please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on more immigration-related news.